it's all happening. By the way, the background behind me, maybe I should head there, is Alice Springs, great part of Australia. Now, an industry in the crossfire at the moment is the transport industry, in particular livestock and rural transporters. Anthony Boyle is the Executive Director of Australian Livestock and Rural Transporters Association, that's ALRTA. He represents at least 700 rural trucking businesses across the country with a fleet exposure to 10,000 vehicles on the road. Now, his organisation supports a movement of Australia's $100 billion agricultural industry, moving everything from paddock to plate or port. He was previously in industry operating his own livestock transport businesses in Western Victoria for 30 years. And that was running 20 livestock trucks. Now, ALRTA is a dedicated voice for the hard-working road transport companies across Australia. It was established in 1985. They advocate for the diverse needs and interest of their members, ensuring the safe and sustainable growth of not only the livestock transport sector, but the entire rural transport industry. From livestock to essential goods, their members keep Australia moving. It's a federation of 6 state associations creating a strong, unified voice for their industry. First of all, Anthony, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, good afternoon, Mike. How you going, mate?
Very well, thanks, mate. Tell us about the how serious. I mean, because we have politicians are trying to keep the lid on it and trying to keep their jobs because there wasn't a whole lot of thought process that goes into, let's not worry about fuel, we'll be all right, we'll bring it in from the States for their emergency supplies and all that sort of stuff. So it's let Australia down. You guys, you need that fuel, otherwise Australia stops, doesn't it?
That's right, and look, that's the problem. We don't know what the fuel crisis is, essentially. We know we've got a distribution problem within the rural part of Australia at the moment. Like, distant areas take longer to get fuel to. You can get it from a terminal in Brisbane to an outer suburb or down to the Gold Coast within an hour, hour and a half. You can't get it at Longreach in 5 minutes. And if there's a toilet paper issue like we're seeing now, we're seeing farmers who they're coming into their planting season, some harvest season in particular around the summer crops and that sort of stuff. So the people who actually produce the commodities that we transport are in a situation where they're needing to underpin their next 12 months of business and things like that. So they're chasing fuel. That then puts supply pressure back on us to be chasing from the same supply. You've got normal usage patterns that are being absolutely exploited. So if just for a number, if there's 1 million litres a day going to a regional hub, that would last them 7 days, that might be lasting them 3 days. So suddenly you've got to increase that supply line into those areas. So for us, what we're actually seeing at the moment, it's just the distribution within the country, let alone with what's actually to come into the country.
How are your members? How are the truckies taking all this? Because I mean, they're under the spotlight, not their fault. I could imagine the stress level is a bit severe at the moment.
That's a really good point, mate. And thanks for actually noticing it, because we really are finding our stress levels of our operators. You got to look at supply is one issue. You've got a driver ringing up saying I can't get fuel. Then you've also got a situation where the cost of that fuel has doubled overnight. Managing credit limits, a $200,000 credit limit once was enough to operate under, where now it's not. So where do you get the cash flow to still buy fuel if you can get it? And which, there is a challenge, but we're still getting it. But how do you suddenly double the cost of your major input? Like fuel is about a third of our whole operating costs in a business. That's now just jumped to 50% of our full operating costs overnight. And then the stress to actually go to your customer and say, mate, I need a 30 to 40% increase in my freight today, and it could change tomorrow. How do you run a relationship with your clients Yeah, the sort of thing.
So we had a bit of a dropout there. That's all
Oh, sorry.
happening. We probably need some fuel too.
Yeah.
But I'll maybe head down to the pub for a counter lunch later on. Um, what about though I mean, I'm going to look at the truckies themselves and the people that they work for. How long can it keep going the way it is, even though the government has said we're going to knock off, what is it, I think 23 or 24 cents a litre or something, and it's going to cost $2.55 billion over the next 3 months. Is that enough to keep the country moving?
Look, at the end of the day, the cost's the cost. If something's got to move, and it's essential to move, people will find a way to pay for it. Our matrices are there now all we're doing is calculating what it's costing us more, and we're passing on those costs. So the cost will end up being the burden of the consumer. The supermarket shelf will be the one that will reflect the outcomes of this. We've got to move our product. If we've got to put food on the table, if we've got to put grain into a feedlot to feed animals to then go into supply chains for meat processing that we can send to the US and Asia Pacific regions, we've got to do that. At the end of the day, the cost will be the cost. So it's just the pressure of handling those sharp rises and that at the moment.
Let's look at keeping on the truckies here too, because a lot of them own the trucks, don't they? So they've got to pay it off. They've got to make sure they got enough money to meet their commitments, and also to look after the families and pay mortgages and what everybody else does. If we do wind things back, that they have to probably ration services and stuff, that I would imagine for many, because the truckies they're not making $1 billion. That would be the death knell to some of these poor buggers trying to do their best for their families, themselves, and the country. What happens then? Do we need to have an overview? Do we need to have a bit of a rethink on how Australia is moving at the moment? Because it seems a bit lopsided. That's in my own opinion.
Look, you probably hit the nail on the head of a problem that's been coming well before the fuel crisis. We've actually seen more insolvencies in the transport industry in the last 12 months than we have for years. We're seeing good family generational businesses close down, and that means the sustainability in the industry has got a problem. We're coming under rates. We're being influenced from probably new players into the industry, and there's been discussion about, do we actually need to have some regulation in the industry to control our pricing, or to control who can operate? Is there a license to operate to ensure people do good practices, are looked after? Now you add this problem with fuel supply, and I suppose it becomes a whole supply chain scenario. What if we can only sit here with 30 days supply? Is that enough when we've now seen it's not? So how do we make sure that our food security still, you can have the food, but if you can't move it, so you've got to have freight security to underpin your food security within your supply chains.
In a better world, what do you think needs to be done? What can be done to not only look after the guy that keeps Australia alive, and they do keep us alive. What needs to be done to make the industry a better industry without putting up the cost to the end user? Because we know there's some greedy buggers out there, and the ones that go to the supermarket are not those greedy buggers. They're trying to stay alive. What needs to be done to make sure that the trucker, the firms, the individuals, the whole industry is going to be around for another 10, 20 years without imploding because of extra cost and other pressures that are brought on by the demand and by government?
Look, we've probably been through some of the worst cost increases after probably COVID exposed a few things, shortage of workers. We've nearly doubled our wages in the last 5-6 years. So that's just simply we've had to come to a market where we've got to compete with mining industry and things like that. So unfortunately, again, the consumer's going to cop that. But if we could get some more support for better training, encouraging small businesses to invest in training, and regulation in our industry, there's a lot of regulatory control for, I know we meant to have safe vehicles on the road, and if you don't have regulation, how do you maintain that? But there's a huge amount of it, and it's very complicated. The process to access those just permits to get on a road, you've got to get a permit to go on a certain road. Like those sorts of things cost businesses, and things like payroll tax for businesses and things like that. It doesn't matter. The more you actually invest in business and the more you try and give someone a job, the more tax you seem to have to pay.
Yeah, government loves. They put their hand out, but they're not terribly keen in putting it back in unless they have to. That's look at Victoria. It's amazing what they're doing at the moment. You would think there's an election coming up. What about the animals, the livestock? Because again, the truck industry is the industry that transports animals from A to B. What happens there?
Look, and that's our priority. That's always our priority. It's amazing when you look at a livestock driver to maybe a general commodity driver. It's all about the welfare of the animals. People who cart livestock actually do it because they love the animals. They love working with them. Drafting cattle, or if you're a sheep and lamb carter, working with sheepdogs and carting lambs. And when you get to your destination and you've delivered them, they all walk off the truck in the same condition you put them on. There's a huge sense of satisfaction, and to see the receiver happy with the condition of the stock when they walk off and all that. So it's a very rewarding industry we're in, but the focus we always have is on animal welfare. And I suppose there's things like this whole social license sort of scenario that we're facing now we've seen the live sheep ban in Western Australia. People look at trucks on the road and they go, it must be uncomfortable for the animals, or it's cruel for the animals. Or actually, a lot of our work goes into ensuring the comfort of the animals is priority. So I'd love to sort of be able to get people to understand our industry better and see the good things that we do, the preparation that we put into making sure the animals are looked after, to ensure there's food and water available when we get to our destination, the planning that goes into shifting livestock over long distances, the penning density to ensure that the animals aren't overcrowded. Pardon me. So all that sort of stuff goes into our operations every day.
It's pretty wild, isn't it? Like because I know about also the livestock industry, the transportation of it. My father-in-law passed away, but he used to drive those great semis with sheep and cattle, and he would come home with a cow pat on his head. But anyway, I thought that used to be pretty cute. And first port of call was a shower. But anyway, that's not. I'm not making that story up. He'd come home with a cow.
I know, and that problem's still there, Mike. Like that, when you ask what can we do to improve the industry,
wear a hat.
Yeah, well, no, just the infrastructure, those washout facilities, so that we can clean our trucks up are few and far between, mate. We'd love to, and we're working on a project at the moment to seek around $200 million worth of investment into that type of industry, because that's actually our biosecurity plan to control our effluent. And then if those places you've got good showers and toilets and a cup of coffee when you're done, just little things like that.
And a place to have a smoke. But I mean, Russians don't smoke. They eat salads and don't smoke, and like hell they don't.
That's right.
Look, I think they are. They are. They are the backbone of the country. Anybody says otherwise needs to hop on the next boat out of here. If somebody wants to find out more about how they can, just help, have a chat to you about the Australian Livestock and Rural Transporters Association, how do they do that?
look, obviously everyone's got socials, so you can get on board with our socials, get in touch with us there. There's a newsletter that we put out every week. If you want to subscribe to that on our website, that'd be great. The more exposure we get to that, that's a great way of keeping in touch. And there's obviously emails and phone contacts that they can do there. But and look, probably just next time you see a livestock vehicle or a truck coming with, you know, bulk grains carting our export commodities or putting food on the table, think of it as an essential service. Don't think it's a dirty big truck on the road, and don't be intimidated. Be thankful that they are still there, because we're still keeping the economy going. You know, think of the poor operators who have suddenly got a 30-40% increase in their costs to operate their business, and how they're managing, and they're still doing it, and then they'll turn around and sponsor the local footy club and the cricket clubs and the gymkhana events and all those sort of local community events at the end of the time, and be part of the communities as well. You know, so we're just mum and dad business operators like everyone else. We're part of communities, and you know, if everyone just wave at a truckie next time.
And if you're those doing long trips, which I've done many, because having lived in the bush, nothing better than a truckie in front of you, because he tells you when you can pass and when it's safe. So it's always good. Nothing worse than those bloody caravans. You would have seen a few of those. Oh, let's pass this truck. What? There's a corner. Did you ever have a heart attack over those sort of things?
Look, the worst place to find a caravan is actually in a parking bay when you're meant to be pulling up in a truck to pull up for the night, and there's bloody about 6 of them taking up your spot that you want to have and it's a legally required break at that particular time, and you get there and there's about 6 caravans in a circle, and they're all sitting around drinking stubbies and got the campfire going. But that's probably the worst place you want to catch them. And on the road we can usually blow them out of the way, but when they're all parked up, it's a bit hard to get them to move.
Yeah, I've got a little sports car MX-5, and I can actually see under the trucks. That's how low it is.
Just make sure you only see it, Mike. Don't go under it. Yeah.
No, I love truckies. I love them. I think they're magnificent creatures. So thank you very much, Anthony Boyle. Thank you so much for your time. Let's do this again. I think we could tell some stories. Some of those true. Great chatting with you, and to the truckies, those that are watching at the moment, keep doing a great job, because we do love you and we do need you. Okay, that's it for our show today. It was a busy one, many things happening behind the scenes, let me tell you, but we got through it, and always worth it too. Again tomorrow, same time, same bale of hay, same phone box, and be careful, be kind to your neighbours too.